Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Explain It. My name is Caroline, and this is my lovely co-host, Ingrid
Ingrid.
Hernandez,
Yep.
who is living her best life. Where are you at right now, Ingrid?
We are currently at Coquina Beach in Florida, the
Oh,
Gulf of
man.
Mexico.
Okay. So you're on the West Coast, best coast.
Yes. Oh,
Warmer
the water
water.
is so turquoise water, super calm. It was beautiful.
That's the way to go. You need to go to Florida with a local to show you around.
Yeah. Hung is number one. Like he has us in this beautiful Lincoln vehicle
Navigator.
driving us around. I'm like, wow, really great service.
I like it. I'm glad to hear that. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. Today, we are going to be talking about how to find good contractors. I know Ingrid's probably only going to be on here for the first month for sure, or first half hour, 30 days. First half hour, she's going to go enjoy dinner. But let's kind of talk about, first and foremost, why contractors are so important and your kind of run-ins with contractors. And just for everybody who's tuning in, guys, we are trying to be able to give back and help out. This is something that we do for free. We have no ads on here. So if you would please go like and subscribe, help us with the algorithm. We'd love to. I will pull you guys up here in a little bit. I'll invite you up and we can talk and answer questions. So please, this is free 99. We just ask that you give us a little like and follow. With that being said, Ingrid, do you like contractors? I've only heard horror stories about contractors, so I'm excited to talk about one that you do like. What has your situation been with contractors?
So first of all, when we got into real estate investing, we were not necessarily like ready to go gun ho into like fixing and flipping. So what I recommend to people, if they don't have any fix and flipping experience, is that you really should squat up with somebody who has that experience, so that you can leverage those connections, those abilities that you may not be able to do. So that's first and foremost. But our first fix and flip was technically a virtual fix and flip in Las Vegas. And we had an amazing, and he's still an amazing agent who has basically all the experience with running crews, because he's done a couple of flips. So we did that. We squatted up with somebody who had a lot of experience. Our fix up was just cosmetic, literally was only $15,000 worth of work. And so it was a risk we were willing to take to have that kind of fix and flip. And the other few that we did after that, we actually just let another team run it. And then we learned by observing like what happened with them. Like we literally had one where we should have made around $35,000 and we ended up making $8,000 because they did not manage their contract crew. So it was an interesting experience because we were way on the sidelines. But it was nicer that they were experiencing it, and then we started learning about what not to do. But you can't avoid all the things that real estate is planning to teach you. And we had a bad experience with a contractor. We went too fast with them without truly vetting them. We did do our best to reach out to people that he'd worked for, and we did our best to understand like what their experience was like. But there were red flags that we chose not to look at. And for example, like he didn't like it was all word, right? Never wrote like the project down, didn't have like a draw plan, nothing
So
like
should you
that.
typically have those when you're working with a contractor? What are some things that you should look for when you're looking for a contractor?
First of all, if you're choosing to use a licensed contractor, and I say it that way because they tend to be more expensive. That's just the reality of things. You really should check their license, check their history, check to make sure that they truly are. You're going to climb that, aren't you? I just climbed a curb. You want to make sure that they are in fact like okay, because if anybody's had issues with them, they'll likely have reported them. So that's just something to think about. Another aspect is like go and actually talk to people who've done business with them. Like, were they organized? I think being organized is so important. Like I've been really surprised by the lack of organization. And I swear, if you want to be a contractor, if you can just be organized, you're going to win so much more business, because that is something that is so difficult to find. Like, you find these contractors or people who are willing to do that, but then they don't give you a bid. They don't give you what's called a draw schedule. A draw schedule is when they anticipate asking for money and how much based on different milestones. So, for example, a weekly draw schedule is pretty common because that's how quickly they have to pay their subcontractors. I would recommend never paying more than 20 or 30% of your project. Even 30% is pushing it when you have a budget that you and your contractor have aligned on. So that's one. Mark is on. Mark is tuning in with his popcorn.
It's a show. Gotta get your pop smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so big things, big red flags to look for: an unorganized person who does not have a draw schedule set up, telling you what things they need to buy, how often they're going to need to do that, and then kind of just like basically blueprints of what work they're going to do. Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha.
Yep. That's a big red flag.
Okay.
Another is asking for all the money up front. You shouldn't
have to. You don't ever give the contractor all the money up front?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because they will take it and run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I'm sorry, just getting a text back to see whether or not our contractor is going to be able to make this. And by the way, if they're busy, that's a good thing. If your contractors are busy, that means they have work. That means people are actually asked. But don't, in my opinion, don't just assume that they're just going to continue doing your work and like not even pay attention. Like, assign somebody on your team to have oversight. So don't just wash your hands. Now, if you've done 3, 4, 5 projects together and you've gotten a flow of things on how you guys should work, absolutely, then you can have a level of trust. But if you're just getting started with a contractor, make sure you have somebody assigned that's going to go review all their work every week and have some level of experience behind that too, because we had a scenario with our bad contractor that he was exploiting the fact that our partner didn't have a lot of experience. And so he would say, yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. But
you didn't verify it. You didn't double check.
No, we were double checking, but the level of work versus how much we were paying were not aligned.
Oh, gotcha. So he was charging you top dollar for, like, if Caroline's doing work and has no idea how to really do a good job setting quartz down or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So, for example, like, he was talking about the electrical work that he was doing and the wallpaper or the drywall work that was happening. That was all just not correct. So, yeah. Oh, looks like Tony's coming on.
I see Tony. Tony, you want to edit? I don't have you on there yet. I'll let you. Is that the name you want to have on there? Is that your Instagram name you want to throw on?
I will edit it. Okay. I can edit it. Yeah.
Perfect. So, all right, let's give the backstory while you're editing his name for him. What's up, Junior? So, hi, Sue. Hi, everybody that's paying attention. Please, if you guys do have questions for contractors, Tony is the man. We're going to bring him up. He is doing a lot of incredible things, and he was able to help some of the worst issues I've heard you ever explain that you've had before, Ingrid. So I'm excited for Tony to bounce up here with us. Now, before we bring Tony up, how did you find him, and what made you go on the hunt for Tony?
So we had a horrible contractor, and the contractor, again, was overselling what services he was actually doing, like blatantly lying that he went and got a permit to move like an electrical box. He did not. Like, once we verified, that was not true, and had us paying for this effort that was really not happening. So that's why I'm saying, like, you should have some level of experience working with you, even if you team up with somebody who's like, hey, I have this experience. I can be your project manager, making sure that your contractor is actually doing what they said they did. So the way I met Tony, and this tells you a lot about the power of going to meetups and networking, is we went to a you guys remember, if you remember, or anybody who knows my background, one of my best friends runs a nonprofit group called Latinos Contra Cancer, and we went to the big gala for it, and Tony and his fiance were there, Tony and Nicole. And so I spoke to really good friends of mine that I've known forever. And then they gave me Tony's information. We had a sit down. We talked about like what we needed. And lucky for us, not only did they work in the Phoenix area, so like in Maricopa County, they also did work in Tucson. And that's where our property in question was at. So I was like, oh my God, thank the Lord, like the stars were aligning. But of course, like I was saying, we needed to vet them. So we after that, you know, I looked into their background, making sure that, you know, nothing was being reported, that they were good. And so that's how we moved forward. And this was a singular project, right? My goal is to do a lot more projects with them because they obviously, they did a one, oh my God, I'm so in love with the property they just fixed in Tucson. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, perfect. Let's bring Tony up here because I know that you're going to try and get to dinner, and I want to get to this. But Sue just said, "Ooh, is this the contractor you just did your most recent live walk in Arizona a few days ago? It was an amazing renovation." And yes, that was Tony. Tony,
Yep.
what's going on, man?
Hi, how's it going? Good afternoon, everybody.
Good to see you, dude. It's been a while. We need to have breakfast again.
Let's do it. What was that place called? The chicken coop or the chicken hen, or what was it?
The hen house
or
cafe.
something like that.
The hen house. There you go. Something with
So, Tony, let's get a background on you, and then Ingrid, I don't want to miss this question. I'll find out how you can find if they're where to check on the reports, if they're a good contractor, if they have cases against them. But Tony, how long have you been a contractor? Where's your home base?
That's an easy one. I can answer that for Ingrid. It's on the ROC website.
What does ROC stand for?
Register of Contractors.
Register of Contractors.
So it's like Arizona, I think it's like AZ and then ROC.gov or something like that. You guys can Google it, or just a lot of things plain and simple. Just Google the name of the construction company that is, you know, you guys are trying to hire or whatnot, and then a lot of stuff comes up on Google, and you'll be able to find, you know, some reports sometimes on people, or, you know, hopefully people like you guys that you guys had bad experiences, you know, just write a blog about the bad contractor, right, and just throw them under the bus. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do, right? Those things, you know, we all know how the internet is. But yeah, no, a little bit of background on myself. I'm not a native to Phoenix or to Arizona. I was born and bred in Los Angeles. Moved out here to Phoenix about I want to say 2017. So I've been out here going on 6 years. Love it so far. I mean, it's a beautiful city, growing, prosperous. All the demand is here. It's just, yeah, it's a great city to be involved in. It's great. There's a lot of opportunity here. I tell people all the time, you know, I tell people from back home, you guys are missing out. I used to work for a general contractor. You know, we had some differences and we split ways, and I went off and I opened my own thing.
Okay.
So here we are now.
So Tony, you're a licensed contractor. Are you also insured?
Yeah, licensed and insured, bonded, all the above.
Okay. So when we're looking,
we are another thing to look for is the type of contractor that you're hiring. There's different classifications. We are KB1 contractors, which pretty much we're unlimited to everything but civil work. We can't work by ourselves on the street. Like, we can't open up sidewalks. We can't dig in the middle of the road. That's a different type of contractor. I've seen a lot of contractors, I think, with like the CR67, which that's a very low tier remodeling one. And I think that only is up to like $50,000 that you can do. So there's a lot of contractors out there taking work that they're not even supposed to. Yeah. Okay. So you guys need to watch out for that kind of stuff.
Is there like a spot that we can go to kind of see what tier contractor we should be looking for? Like, hey, I'm going to do a total gut on my house. Is there like a way to like check out the license that they have that'll match them?
Yeah. That on the ROC website, you guys will be able to check that out. That's definitely on there.
Okay, cool.
It's so their profile.
Okay, so cross-reference with the ROC website. We want a contractor that is licensed and insured.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes I know people are like, hey, I'll give you references. What should you be looking for when you're talking to a reference, like a client they've had before that they're using as a reference? Like, how do you know it's not just my buddy Ingrid saying that I've done a good job? How do you know they've actually, like, what are some good questions to ask to make sure that they know what they're doing?
I would definitely look them up on social media.
Okay.
I mean, or just, I know a lot of my old school guys out there, they don't have that, or they're not big on that. But I mean, just definitely ask them for their portfolio, ask them for pictures, ask them for pictures of completed work, make sure it's theirs. Obviously they show you stuff on their phone. It's pretty organic, right? I guess look for a lot of the organic pictures, a lot of the organic content. If they're showing you a bunch of pictures of how they got there, that's pretty organic, right? If they're showing you a bunch of pictures of them with just work completed and it doesn't really have like their stuff on it, like you don't see tools laying around, all that good stuff. That's a good, heads up for a lot of people, right? I know if you scroll through my phone pictures, you'll see
right
pictures. Yeah. Like on my Instagram, yeah, but I'm saying like on my phone. If you scroll through my phone pictures, you'll see a lot of organic stuff, right? Dirty job sites, stuff that, wasn't completed yet, or I have pictures of the progress. You'll see soda cans laying around because I hate when my guys leave soda cans everywhere, But if you look through Nicole's phone pictures, you'll see a lot of the finished stuff, a lot of the end product, right? So just try to follow that timeline.
Okay. So let's talk about, before we go into any more questions here, I'm going to share my screen so you can talk about, for those of you who are not on Ingrid's live the other day where she had Tony go over her property. This is your property that they just finished, correct, Ingrid?
Mm-hmm.
This is the one. Okay. So look, we can see how nice it was. I want to hear the backstory of how much of a mess it was before you got in here, Tony, and you fixed it up. Because I remember when Mark and Junior were going down there and breaking down walls, and you had your Ingrid lost service there. Had service. So Tony, since you're still on here live with me, what kind of headaches did you have? I know there was an electrical box issue. We kind of talked about it when we went to breakfast that day. What were some of the things that you found in this property and that you guys had to do to make it right? Because you did the job, like you went back and rewired the entire house. What kind of headaches did you see, and what should we look out for?
So again, I don't like to bash on other contractors, right? Because everybody's got their own way of doing things and everybody's got their own method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's only one way to do it right. But it was a lot of just headaches. I mean, stuff that wasn't done, things that were done incorrectly. A lot of the framing was not done correctly. The code, the electrical wiring was done all bad. We found boxes that were hidden behind service boxes that are not supposed to be hidden. We found behind the walls. It was.
When you say a service box for somebody who's not in contract, you mean just like the little wall outlet where I'd plug in like my computer?
Let's say like if you look around your room and you find, an outlet cover that's just a solid piece that it looks like you can't do anything with, right?
Yeah.
Those most of the times are service boxes.
Okay.
That was, that we found a few of those. You're not
just
supposed
behind
to
the
hide
drywall.
Just behind the drywall, yeah, right. There's tools that we use. There's tools that we use in our field where we can detect stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Why is that so important? Like, why does that matter if you cover that up?
Well, it just, if one day, so usually what happens is everything runs, like the main power source will run there, and then from there you kind of tee off and you kind of button other stuff together to that, right? So it's like getting power somewhere else, but with multiple outlets. So let's say one day your outlet goes bad on one wall. Well, you have no way of tracing that back, right? So you kind of go to the service box, and the service outlet will tell you like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should check this out. That's the type of stuff that you want those there for. They're called junction boxes for the people that, people are in the business, right?
Okay. Potential. I wasn't there. I don't know. So were these like open wires? Could there have potentially been like a fire if you didn't have it closed in the correct way?
That's a very big possibility. Yeah.
Okay.
Very,
so you went through,
very big.
You preventing a fire from potentially happening in the future by uncovering that and then closing it up the correct way.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that's the nightmare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can potentially, you know, cause a big accident that there's no coming back from.
Gotcha.
A lot of contractors that, you know, are not licensed, or even some of those that are, you know, I've seen do really, you know, a lot of work that's not, you know, done to code, or done, like, you know, we talked about, correctly, and you can potentially be causing, you know, a big accident for some people. You know, you never know. You know, I've seen doors installed incorrectly where they can just fall on somebody, right?
Gotcha.
Windows, you know, electrical framing, it's all got to be done right.
Okay.
Uh,
So Ingrid, now that you're back, we were just talking about some of the boxes that he had wired, and I see that you're on here too, Nicole. So we'll bring Nicole up here, your partner in crime. You must be at Home Depot right now, Nicole.
yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm a little late. I'm in the field today.
No worries. Ingrid, I know that you're going to dinner, so I'm gonna let you have the opportunity to like point out some of the stuff because this is your flip. So Tony talked about that he uncovered some boxes that were there. What were some of the biggest headaches that you had with the property, and then why are Tony and Nicole a godsend?
Oh gosh. So the work was super delayed. You know, we were able to compare it to another property that we were actually that we were fixing up at the same time. And I'm like, both were gut jobs. Granted, the property that we had in Phoenix was half the size, but like just the velocity of work was happening so much faster. And I was like, why is this flip taking so long? Why are I'll say the milestones or the phases of this, like why is it happening the way it is? So that was a red flag for me. And then the constant draws for big amounts. And of course I was getting that vetted by one of our partners, but he really didn't have a solid way of confirming that what was happening was the right thing. So when Nicole and Tony were able to come in and assess all the things that were done clearly, and they were able to see more than I could, right? So clearly there was issues. And again, they can say that better, but a lot of rework that happened. One of the things that we were talking about is, you know, you pay what you get for, right? And you think something's cheap. Imagine when it, you know, like here you are about to do that, and then now you have to do that work again. Mm-hmm. So what was a reasonable amount now more than now it's much higher than expected.
So you had to pay twice for the job to be done right.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and also, I mean, you know, we want to do the right thing when we're investing or making properties. You want to make them safe, and you didn't want to put a family in this home.
No.
Like he already said, he had to redo the framing. I think that's something that you've preached on before, Tony.
Framing, electrical, plumbing, all those things had to get redone. So everything that we supposedly paid for wasn't actually done right. So at this point, we're actually going to try to get our money back to some extent, and definitely go after this guy. But first things first, we were trying to make sure that this property got done and that it was safe and that we would feel good about putting another family in there.
So what were the red flags when you had the property originally? Like, when were you like, okay, something's fishy. This is supposed to be done by now. Like, how long was it before you brought Tony and Nicole in?
He started work in August, and then the end of July. By September, we were like, you're supposed to be done with this work in November. Like, you're nowhere near getting done. So that's when we fired him.
Okay. All right. So Tony and Nicole, I'm going to open it back up to you. I know that you told us you had to redo the framing, Tony, and you guys did some of the electrical. What are, like, when Ingrid got a hold of you, and I'll pass this over to you, Nicole, what are some of the things that you immediately look for? And like, what are some telltale signs like, oh no, this might be a bad job. Let us come in here and fix it.
Well, when me and Tony actually went out to the property and assessed it, even before we take on a project, we have to like be there personally, you know, to see what the state of the property is and what needs to get done. So we were very upfront with Ingrid, you know, about the kind of like the red flags that we looked at. Electrical, Tony brought up many things about electrical being one of them, framing, and just in general, there was a lot of windows, even installation of windows, something as simple as that. So, when we walk the property, we assess everything, and from there, like me and him just basically sit down and have a conversation about, in reality, like what the amount of time and work that this property would take. So I think from the get-go, we're very like honest with Ingrid about the situation and the state of the property. So just honesty, I think being like upfront about the project, and setting expectations and timelines is like major whenever you're collaborating with someone, because it truly is a collaboration between the owner of the property and the GC.
Okay. So next question I have for you guys. When you come and view a property, what's the time, like what's the turnaround time that you can walk it and you can give an estimation of how much work it's going to be and how much it's going to cost? Is that something you guys can provide in like a week? Is that something as quick as 24 hours? When people are working with you, or they're working with a good contractor in general, because I know you guys can't travel all over the country, sadly, like what should we be expecting from professionals that know what the heck they're doing?
God, I want to say anywhere from 7 to 10 business days.
7 to 10 business days to get a turnaround on this is the scope of work we think it's going to be, and probably the prices of what it needs to be.
Yeah, about it, and it depends. It depends on the job as well, right? There's smaller remodels where it's just like a kitchen or bath, and then there's a whole house remodel, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how deep we have to get into the scope of work, and then how quickly we can start tracking down prices on our side, right?
Okay.
We have to do, materials, labor. If we have to hire some subcontractors, how fast can they get us back their prices, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so anywhere from 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 days. And then do you guys typically would you guys shoot that? Are you going to get back on a phone call with them? Are you going to kind of go over blueprints? I've never worked with a contractor myself. I've done fix it. Like I've always had everybody else handle that. And I've done like my little odds and ends on my own. Is that something you kind of walk through a person that partners with you? Like what should we be looking for when we want to hire a good contractor?
I'll leave that one for Nicole.
All right, go ahead, Nicole.
So I think, in addition to what Tony said, 7 to 10 business days would be at a minimum.
Okay.
Some contractors, depending on the workload that we have at the moment, it could be longer than that. So it all depends on where we are at the moment.
How busy
we
many
are,
jobs you have going on.
exactly, how many,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So whenever we are looking at proposals, we definitely look at plans.
Okay.
We need to have that time to be able to assess what the plans are saying. If you do have approved plans already, if it's just a renovation and everything's going to be replaced as is, then we need to have a timeline of meetings, because we're not only meeting with the client and what the client wants to get done, but we're also meeting with the subcontractors, like Tony had mentioned, and then also like depending on what type of trades we're going to have involved. So whenever we are assessing all of that and generating this proposal, it's what takes the most time. So if a client or if a GC is saying yes right off the bat without handing you a scope of work, without handing you actually like a tangible paper documentation stating what they're going to get done, then that's
right. It should be tingling. Yeah, we should be like, oh no, okay.
Yes, or automatically saying, okay, like for example, we've had instances where the client will give us a budget, and we could have taken the project. We could have said, okay, yes, we'll do it at that. But in reality, like that's no bueno, because we haven't really assessed the scope of work and if it's going to fit that budget.
Gotcha. Okay. I have a few more questions, but here's one that Sue just threw in the side chat for you. When you're getting 2 to 3 contractor quotes, what are clues in the quotes to look for that signal a good contractor? So are there like something that you see contractors like overbid that like you're like, oh, they're just like, they're fluffing the numbers here? Or is there anything where people kind of skim and you should be a little leery?
I think Nicole answered that in her last question, where
They
You know, if
just say like,
they're
oh, yeah, we can do this without even talking to anybody else. That's probably the
yeah,
biggest alert.
if they're just really quick to take the job, or they get back to you in a day or two, I mean, that's probably a contractor that's not busy, and probably doesn't have, big clientele, or it can be a lot of things. I mean, if he's not asking you any type of questions either, like, hey, we go back to our clients about 2, 3, 4, 6 times, a bunch of times, sometimes, and
Mhm.
ask them questions like, hey, we talked about this. Are you sure? Or, can you give me a little bit more clarity on what type of tile do you want? Stuff like that. You got to ask questions. You got to dialogue with your clients.
So if your contractor's not asking you any questions, that should be another red flag. Your spidey senses should be tingling.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Nicole's giving me a head nod. Okay, cool. So here's another. This is a good one because I do not like confrontation. When
Yeah.
things go, so Randy asked this, when things go bad with your contractor, what can you do other than firing them after paying them more money than they have completed?
I think for me, and in my opinion, when you collaborate with a contractor, it's basically like a relationship, a marriage. There needs to be a lot of communication. There needs to be even proof, like just emails, text messages, where you guys are discussing the changes or the plan or timelines. And I think it's just a matter of communicating, and compromising, because we're not all the same people. We're not the same. We are humans at the end of the day, and we do have emotions. And sometimes, there might be conversations that aren't clear enough where they have to be revisited. In my personal opinion, when a client is not happy with something, like, I'm always about having those hard conversations, because we are adults. This is our job, and at the and it's very important just to establish a relationship and raptor with the client and the GC.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. You have anything else to add on there, Tony?
I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, it's one of those situations where you just have to be really, really careful, even on both sides, right? There has to be milestones set from the get-go. Whenever you
Expectations.
come to contract, let's set some milestones, and at that point there should be no reason why they're asking you for any upfront money, or any type of, hey, can you cut me a break, or I need some money for this. Like, no, well, you know what, you didn't really reach your milestone. Blame it on the contract, right? Hey, you said you were going to do this, but you haven't got there yet. Let's get there, and then we'll move forward.
Gotcha. So when working with you guys, you're typically, because like I've never had to deal with the contractor. I've passed it on to Ingrid. I've passed it on to like Pace and people that I've worked with before, because
yeah,
that's not my world. So if I'm new and I'm coming to work with, Gomez Construction, the experts in the area, you guys will kind of give me a blueprint of what those milestones will look like and when we can have those conversations, and you'll cue me in, because I'm green and I have no idea.
yeah. That stuff should all be written down.
Okay.
Should be very clear on the contract. Milestones.
Love it.
Yeah, so there should be really no gray. It's black and white with us, right?
I think we also we call them phases.
Yeah, phases.
So yeah, it's construction phases, and we typically won't ask for a progress payment unless one of the phases has been completed, or unless we've reached, like Tony mentioned, those milestones.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Good to know. Same thing. I guess this is another one that kind of ties in. You'd come in and talk to me if there's any issues that arise during the project. A pipe burst that we didn't foresee. You're going to contact me immediately and let me know about the pipe and just jump in and fix that. Or you're going to talk to me and talk about bids on getting a plumber in here. You already have as a subcontractor. How does that typically work with anything that's like popped up on a site?
I guess it really depends on the magnitude, right? If we hit a pipe and it's our fault, we're gonna fix it. If it's what it is, right? It's our fault. We bid it. It's mine, right? I touched it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a wall and we're removing a wall and we cannot find electrical or plumbing, at the end of the day, we're not Superman, right? We don't have X-ray vision, so we can't see what's behind or in between those walls, and that happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, try to make that as minimal as possible, but it happens. I mean, we're human beings, and I don't want to go to your house and start tearing things out, without, being under contract, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, you just talk about them. Like I said, like Nicole said, we're all adults here, and we just have that conversation. And it's like, look, none of us foresaw this. Here's, one or two options, or you tell us what you want to do, right? We tell people, hey, if you're going to give us a bid, or if we're going to pick up one of your contracts for 100,000, try to fluff it, have 10, 15, 20% set aside, because changes happen. And it's not just on our side. A lot of the times the clients, see something on Instagram, or they see somebody else's house, and they're like, hey, we want this, or let's change this to this. Well, it's done already. Like, we got to unmantle it, and we got to put it back, right? So we get a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's all on communication. It's all on communication.
Guys, sorry for the interruption. I actually have to get going. So thank you all for having me.
Thanks for jumping on, Nicole.
Next time. Yeah, of course. Bye.
Appreciate you. Bye. All right. So a few other questions, and they see we have some new green people in here as well. When people get started with contractors, do the contractors cover the upfront cost, or are you going to you're going to say, hey, we got to go buy all these materials. This is what the upfront startup's going to be when we get started.
It depends on the relationship again.
Okay.
I've had it both ways, right? It's a small job. I'll knock it out, and I'll ask you for a full payment, down the road, right? If I don't know you and I don't know anything about you, and you pick me out of the phone book or Instagram, and then I will ask you for some upfront costs, because I mean, there's obviously horror stories out there with clients too, right?
Yeah. They're not paying. They leave you high and dry.
Yeah, we're probably about $100,000 in the hole right now with clients that haven't paid us.
Wow. How often do you have to float that? Is that something that's just somebody who didn't pay you, or is that in between? Like, they're like waiting to pay you? In between, because we're waiting on other trades, or the client just kind of disappears on us, right? Or they don't want to answer the phone anymore when we're done. Just there's a lot of things that happen. A lot of things that happen in between that. And it happens all the time. It happens to everybody. Gotcha. Yeah. So do you usually charge like a deposit? Yeah, we usually charge a deposit. We'll do 50%. It depending on the size of the job, right? We'll do 50% up front, and then we'll do 25 and 25. So we'll reach a milestone, for the 50%, and then after that we'll reach a milestone for the 25. And then when they give you your keys and we say, hey, we're all done here, you happy? We happy? Yeah. We'll do the other 25. Okay, cool. Good to know. I thank you for answering these. Right. That's just other contractors practice other things. Okay. I've heard of some contractors splitting up into three phases, but they're 33%, 33%, 33%. It's just all depending, right? Gotcha. Okay. So then what is your payment schedule? Just goes off of those phases. Once you hit that milestone, that's when a payment is due. Yeah, correct. Love it. Okay. How many subcontractors do you have? And how do you ensure their work meets your standards? It's cost me a lot of money to get there. It's trial and error. It's trial and error, right? I mean, I have a lot of new guys. I have a lot of new guys that work with me that, I was the one that gave them the first chance. And I have guys that have worked with me from day one, right? There's obviously always people coming into the business that know some type of trait, or are great at something, right? And yeah, it's what it is, trial and error. I've had to go back and fix some of my subcontractors, mistakes, and it's what it is, right? Where the the S word rolls downhill, and it stops with us, right? So we got to fix it. We're the filter, where we don't like stuff like that getting back to our client, and we'll try to step in front of it as best as we can. I like that. Okay. Yeah. Again, finding good contractors is hard, and finding somebody who's going to back up with what they say they're going to do is incredible. So this leads me into one of my final questions I'll have for you. What type of warranty or guarantee do you offer for your work, if any? So by state law, anything we touch, we own for 2 years. So that's off the rip. Gotcha. Anything we touch, it's a 2-year warranty.
you know, it's all depending if you know what it is. We probably about 6 months ago installed, you know, a beam, you know, like a retaining beam, and it had a post, and the client was leasing this warehouse out to one of his clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy drives in there with a forklift, hits the beam, and he tries to put it back.
It's not your fault.
It's not my fault, right? But they obviously try to blame it on you. You know, oh hey, this or that, or it went sideways, and it's like, no, dude, it was clearly hit. You know, my client took me out there, was like, hey, dude, like I know this thing's kind of funky. What can we do here? And I went in there and I just gave it to the guy boldly. I was like, hey, did you hit this? You know, I can clearly see the scrape marks and the tire marks, and you know, it's not my fault, and I'm sorry, but it's gonna cost you this much to get it fixed, right? And that's just, you know, it's what it is. Sometimes we have to go in there and have those conversations with people, right?
Yeah.
So
Just be upfront. I mean, I'm sure this guy has used you for quite a few
yep.
deals because you're honest.
People try to get away with stuff. Another thing is that um, we as a company, if you're not the right client for us, we will tell you. And
Ooh, I love that.
yeah, and that says like we also, and that's just something that I've practiced, right? Like I told Ingrid from day one, I'm not the contractor for everybody. You either love me or you hate me, right? Um, and we're sometimes we're really too upfront with people, and we'll tell people like if they don't have a plan or they're too far behind, or you can see the, you know, they're kind of all over the place. We're like, hey guys, you know, we really practice if you know, what's that saying? How does that saying go? If you don't plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah, fail to plan, you plan to fail.
That's
Absolutely.
that's one of our biggest slogans, and we tell people that all the time. Another reason why we do things in phases
Mm-hmm.
is that if things get out of control, phase one, you know, or phase two, and the client's getting a little bit of difficult to work with, we'll fire them. We'll say, hey, you know what? We completed our phase. We no longer want to work with you. We you know, as a company, we'll decide to pull our contract, and you can go figure it out with somebody else. So
Absolutely. Peace over profit. That's really important.
yeah, sometimes it's just not worth dealing with some people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So, Tony, do you and Nicole offer, like, say I'm new and I know I need a contractor and I kind of know what I want? Can we get you guys to help us with the design? Is that an extra charge, or is that like I got a contractor, the designing is free?
it depends.
Okay.
Nicole's more of the, you know, I'll help you design or help you do whatever. It's not free. You know, we will charge you for it.
Yeah, you guys should be
Yeah,
compensated for your time.
yeah,
You need to be paid for the
we,
work that you've done.
yeah, exactly, right. We also know a lot of designers that we can refer out to.
Mm-hmm.
We work with a lot of architects that we can refer out to. And I'll put my stamp. If I refer you to somebody else, I'll put my stamp on it. I'll put my word as a company on it that they're great people. Through trial and error, right? So if you like her, you know, every designer is different, right? If you like their style, you
Mm-hmm.
like their style. If you don't, you don't. So
I like that.
yeah,
Okay,
so we
we're
will
coming in.
help.
Okay. Oh, I know we're coming to an end, and I want to be mindful of your time. Um, if you could go back in time at any point in your life, you have 2 minutes to talk to your previous, like that version of yourself. What would you say to yourself? When would you go back, and what would you say to the different version of Tony?
God, that's a tough question.
I know you have 2 minutes. What
Yeah,
advice would you do? Would you just hang out? What would you do? 2 minutes, anytime in the world.
I would have a really deep conversation with myself and really, and really talk about you know, where I've gone as a human being, right? It didn't always start out like this. Different decisions in life, you know. Yeah, it would be a good conversation. I mean, that's a hard question.
I know.
That's a
That's why
really
I was hitting you at the end with it. I can't give you that front. I got to give you a quick
I know,
quick
right?
moment to go back.
Yeah,
How old would you be? When would you have gone back?
I would go back to 27 years old
27 years old. Okay, why?
because I did a really big development deal back
Okay,
then.
tell me about it.
Huge development deal, California. Uh, made a lot of money. I still wish I had.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would just be like, hey, dude, be more mindful. Put things in writing. I've learned to put things in writing.
Okay.
I've learned to do things a whole lot different. I was the handshake guy, right? Yeah, sure. Let's high five me. We're good. I'll take your word for it. Well, you know, sometimes that stuff is as good as the person that's saying it, and sometimes they're not. They're not those people that you think they are, right? So
Absolutely. That's a good point. I like that. So not only should you get everything in writing when you're working with a contractor, and just in life, that's a good life lesson.
yeah, get everything in writing. Not everything's the way it appears to be, for sure.
So Tony, what all markets are you working in right now? I know Sioux and Snow, I know a lot of other people know. Are you only in Phoenix and Tucson at the moment?
We do most of the metropolitan area. I mean, we've gone out to Maricopa, we've gone out to Santan, Queen Creek. I was in Surprise earlier today. We work with the National Restoration Company. We have one of their biggest contracts. We do their large loss. We do everything wherever they call us. In reality, we do, like I said, a lot of work in Tucson as well. So yeah, just basically, these two markets are where we hang out.
Okay. And then what's the best way to get a hold of you if we want to bid? Like, I know I'm looking at a few properties right now that I'm looking to buy subject to. I know they're going to need work. I know I have your phone number, but for everybody else, how can we reach out to you? And then what is the expected? Like, I reach out to you tonight. I know it's the end of the day, and I know you and Nicole got to go eat and take care of your own selves so you can be productive tomorrow. What's the turnaround time, and how should we get a hold of you?
So, I mean, usually we like to ask somebody for 24 hours for us to get a call back.
Okay.
You can either call us 602-612-2822. That's our office number. Instagram, Facebook, we're always on that. Even if you go on our website, GomezBuilt, BUILT.com. So it's GomezBuilt.com. We have an inquiry page there. You can pull us up, and we get those messages pretty quick.
Gotcha. Okay. Tony, I appreciate you jumping on here. What is one thing that you want to accomplish this year? One goal, one personal and one professional goal.
One personal goal. Personal goal would be spend more time at home with the family.
Okay, that's a good one.
Professional goal, make more money. Let's kill it this year.
I love it, man.
Recession is a mindset.
You're not wrong. Tony.
Recession is a mindset. Everybody has recessions at different times. I had a quick story. I had a buddy in 2021. I just went to a baseball game with him last night. We talked about this. People can slip and fall. It can be, the top of the economy. You can be walking out of your office, you slip and fall, you break a leg. Guess what? You can no longer be the service provider of your family, right? So you got to go, sit down and, do what you got to do. That's a recession, right?
You're not wrong.
I mean, it's all, it's a mindset.
Absolutely. Guys, find the right contractor. Reach out to Tony at Gomez Construction. I'm going to put his Instagram in the side chat so everybody can find it. Gomez_construction.
Period construction group.
There we go. Gomez Construction Group. Perfect. Yeah. I'll throw it in the side chat. Actually, I'll share my screen so everybody can see it. You guys can see all the work that they've done. Here we go. And you guys can check out Ingrid's look, there's Ingrid speaking on them. Here's their most recent flip with Ingrid. Tony, thank you. I'm going to I guess I'm just going to copy it up here. Copy the link. I'll put it in the side chat for everybody. Tony, appreciate you jumping on here with us. Excited to do some more business with you guys. You guys are the bee's knees. Really, really, really love you and Nicole. You guys are cut from the same cloth. So thank you. Have a good night, and we'll want to have you back.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. Whenever you guys want, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Tony.
Great. Have a good one. Bye-bye.